Hello guys, and welcome to this session about how to export SQL Server table to JSON. First we'll take a look what is a JSON, and it has become the standards for most of the data interchange these days after the evolution of big data. JSON stands for a JavaScript object notation, and here it's a lightweight data interchange format that is human readable, and basically the components are like JavaScript. So it's a subset of JavaScript programming language where the syntax and the variable declaration is very much similar that we use in JavaScript, and it can be considered as an alternative to XML. So extended markup language has been mostly replaced with the JSON these days. So we'll take a look about how we are going to do this for exporting a table to a JSON format. So first we'll create a table, and then we'll create a script that will export to JSON format. Before we go, we'll take a look what is the format of a JSON document, and then only it will be clear to you what exactly we are going to do. Okay, so in PowerShell we have commandlet that is convert to JSON. This can be used for this purpose. So before we proceed with the actual script, we'll do a little trial with the commandlet. So we'll take an example of process. So if you run the get process, you get an output like this. So here we are going to use two columns. One will be ID, the next one will be the process name. So what we'll do a select on this ID and process name, and then we'll see how it goes. Okay, so the format looks okay. So only these two columns will be used for converting. So if I convert to, then I put a JSON, what will the output? So okay, this is the format. So all processes, if you see the syntax, there will be one square bracket here and it will close here, and then we have the column names, ID, process name, and the value. So we can use this convert to for this purpose, and definitely the output and format looks in a proper syntax, and we can use in other exchange with other applications. So before we go, first we'll create the table in the SQL Server, and the table will contain some records into it, and based on that we'll proceed. So okay, we'll connect to the local instance. Okay, maybe the permission problem. Okay, so we are on the server, and we'll use one of the database, that is DB1, and create the table in that. So this is where we create the table, EMP, and then we set the ID as an integer, and then name as you can add more columns as well, but sake of simplicity I'm not adding more columns, but it can be added if you want. Okay, so this table has been created, and it has no records as of now. Okay, so the next is we'll insert some data into this. So 1, and then we add the phone number into this. We use something. The next is we'll insert more rows. So that will be to John. Here we'll add one more row, John. So we'll run this. So now we have at least 2 records in this table. Oops, I think I didn't run it. So now we have 2 records in this table, and we can add more. So here is the employee ID 3 with Marina as name, and we run it. Okay, so now we have 3 records in this table, and now the next is to start creating a script that will export. Okay, so in the script we remove this line, we do the trial here. So first thing what we'll do is the most important thing is to establish a connection to SQL Server. Here what we do, we'll create a variable which will store the local instance name. Before we do that, we'll copy the instance name from here. So there can be other better ways to do this, but I think this is also fine. Okay, now we have the instance name, and then the next is to create a connection string. And the connection string will be server equals to $instance, and then database equals to db1, and then the integrated security to true. So now we have the connection string here, and then we have the main query. This query can be different in your case if you want to filter out something, but in this case we are not using any other filter. So we'll select star from EMP. So that is the table name. And now once this query is set, this query will be called from the connection. So we'll create a connection, and we'll create a connection that will be a new object, and that will be system dot data dot SQL client, and then SQL connection. So this connection will have the connection string. So connection string equals to the connection string we have set here. Okay, so the next is to open a connection, and then we'll use the connection dot we'll create a variable command that will be connection dot create command. This is to just add a reference with the command, and then with the command variable we can perform the other tasks, like to set the command text. So command text will be the query itself. Okay, So now the query is set. The next is to create a result variable which will use the command execute reader. Now execute reader is set, so next is to use the table. So this is the main table variable that is going to store the information. So that will be system.data.data table. Okay. All right. So now this table is set. So we just have to load, and this will be loaded into the dollar result. So now everything is all set. Before we go, we'll test it. On the testing, we are going to close the connection. Okay. So as you saw, it was just a connection problem. So we will set the user ID to SA, and the password will be set to this. So next thing what we're going to do is we'll use the table, and then if you just write $table and then you select some columns, you will get something like table.columns column name. Okay, so we have $table.columns column name. We'll run till here. So we can see the data as ID, name, and phone. Now the story is extremely simple. Next is to just use the convert to JSON, and there's a small string will do rest all the magic. Okay, so this format looks good, and it can be used for interchanging data between different applications. JSON has become more popular these days since the evolution of big data solutions, and mostly the new formats are coming into picture because they have to handle the big data. So MongoDB and different databases can get data from each other. Don't use very big table. Maybe this query will require more memory when it runs on the server. So either you can have a different server to share the workload, or else you can utilize to run things in batches. So while you're exporting a very large table, like more than 1 GB, you should perform this task in batches, and this will help you reducing the memory consumption. And you can create a view, or you can filter out here, and for example, this EMP has EMP ID, so we can use something like where ID is greater than 2. So this will filter out the results based on your requirement. Thanks for watching this video, and don't forget to subscribe us.